Three, two, one. Hey everyone, welcome back to Ash on Comics. I'm Ash, and today we got a comic review for Batman issue 93. Can you believe it's up to 93 issues already? It just feels like it wasn't that long ago. They were just starting their run. As you know, if you've been following Batman, James Tynion took over on issue 85. Wow, has it been that many issues so far of Tynion's run? Whew. He's writing kind of a decompressed storyline that is a little annoying to me. I like James Tynion as a writer. He's one of my favorite new writers for me. Like, 'cause when I came back into comics in 2018, and I went from being an old Marvel boy to discovering DC, I knew all the big talent, especially at Marvel and Image, and some of the indie stuff. I wasn't a big DC guy, but I knew that stuff back in the 80s and the 90s. But, you fast forward to, almost the end of this. We're almost about to go into the third decade of the century. God, I'm getting old. Anyways, I didn't know who a lot of the new talent was. I didn't know who James Tynion was. I didn't know who Scott Snyder was. I didn't know who Robert Venditti was. I didn't know... trying to think. Whenever I try to do this and think of the names... I lose track. Josh Williamson is one. I didn't know who these people were. There's more names that I'm not coming to name right now. But at DC, so James Tynion quickly became one of the ones I discovered because he did that book, if you remember, for the New Age of Heroes, The Immortal Men. And Immortal Men was my favorite of the New Age of Heroes books. And I really liked the way he approached the story, the way he told it. It had a really familiar feel of what I loved about X-Men, because I was a big X-Men fan back in the day. And I was like, oh, I got to watch this guy. Anyways, fast forward to today, he's got the job on Batman. I was like, oh, cool, this is a guy I like. And for the most part, look, you can't really... It'd be really hard to do worse than what Tom King was doing before Tynion took over. So you could almost throw anyone onto Batman, even probably Bendis, and Batman was going to improve. So that's okay. Tynion started off decently strong. I thought the first couple issues were solid. And he's just maintained a competent comic book, for what I call, for the most part. I do think the story is dragged out a little long for my taste, but let's get into it. So the first thing that stands out is the art. Guillaume March, I believe is his name. First of all, praise that... never mind. This is Tony Daniel cover. I thought this was a Guillaume March cover. Okay, so reverse that. Not praise. Tony Daniel is an outstanding artist, and the fact that he drew a cover, mind you, not an interior page, that I couldn't tell the difference between the interior art is not a good sign. God, this is bullshit. This propaganda just bombarding you. Is there anyone out there right now that doesn't understand you need to keep 6 feet apart? Is there? Do you need your comic books doing this to you? Do you? Are you an idiot? Did you forget? Do you need propaganda in your comic books? Does that make you entertained? I wish I could do a Russell Crowe impression from Gladiator. Are you not entertained? Anyways. So the book opens up at the end from the last issue. Surprise. And we got at the end of the last issue, Batman arrives at his office, and the designer is there waiting for him, and we get a confrontation. And so Batman basically asks the designer to reveal his plan. I'm here, tell me how this whole plan was supposed to go. And then the designer says, oh, you're a smart guy, why don't you tell me? And so we get that trope that is common in sort of like whodunit mysteries, right? Like Agatha Christie or the Sherlock Holmes, where the the detective unveils, the whole plot, like, here's what was going on, and how so Batman sort of does that, and he starts off, he says, here, you start off, you get these assassins, and it's kind of neat. It's a trope because the trope works. I haven't seen Batman use that trope too much, so at first I was a little thrown off, and I was like, really? And then I was like, yeah, okay. Some of the things worked for me, like how Penguin becomes in power. I thought it was pretty cool how they had these assassins that came in and tore down essentially the power base in Gotham, and then Penguin takes over. I thought that made sense. The whole Riddler part of the plan didn't make sense. That his actual riddle was to like not solve the riddle, and then the cops that were then allowed to work for him, and then he ends up controlling the Gotham police. I was like, what? And then Catwoman is supposed to rob Bruce Wayne, but then she hacks into his accounts, and I was like, is Catwoman a cat burglar? Or is she now a master hacker? I just don't see Catwoman as a master hacker. She's a girl who lives on the streets. The fact that she could hack into Bruce Wayne's accounts, of all things, and steal, that was her part of the plan, was to get all the money, and then Joker's part of the plan was to kill Batman and Robin. And that was the original designer plan, spoiler, to basically foil Batman. Now, of course, this was an earlier Batman who wasn't quite, at the level he is today. He's less experienced, and the designer was kind of counting on that. I don't know why his plan was delayed, but now so Batman is here, and he says things. He's like, I'm not the man I was then. I've evolved. I've caught up to your design. I am equal to it. So you say, let's find out, shall we? And so Batman, for some reason, out of nowhere, has a katana, samurai sword. Now, it's kind of weird here, like, he has a handle at least. Where's the blade? And then, whing! So maybe this is some sort of switch katana thing that Batman has devised. I mean, the technology that he has is kind of ludicrous anyway, so it wouldn't strike me if Batman had some sort of sword where the whole blade could conceal into the handle. I mean, why not? Tony Stark has got an Iron Man armor that, like, fits in a handbag. It's like, but this is just goofy. This pan right here. Where's the blade? And so they get into a little en garde, and they're about to sword fight, but we don't get the action because it cuts over, and now Catwoman has brought the underagent or whatever, underbroker, to the Batcave. This is the woman that's supposed to marry Batman. She's brought him to the Batcave. Whatever. What do you do? And she needs him to help her move the money. She explains how Bruce Wayne's monies are all offshore. And it's actually kind of clever, like what James is trying to write here, of how Bruce Wayne's money is managed offshore, and the whole reason why Batman can spend the money that he spends and no one can really trace it. He kind of gives this little explanation that, for comics, just helps you suspend your disbelief and go, oh, okay, that kind of works. So I actually kind of like this idea here of how they're going to move the money. And then we go to here, and we come back to the Harley Quinn and Punchline fight, which we remember we saw Harley introduced to Punchline in the last issue. And this just does not make sense to me. Punchline comes across to me as this like master assassin. She's a master knife fighter. That's how she comes across to me. Harley Quinn is essentially a cosplayer. She's a psychiatrist, a female psychiatrist. She's not an MMA fighter. She's not a trained combatant of any sort. But apparently she can do whatever the plot needs her to do. She's a master fighter, and the personalities of these two could not be more different. And it doesn't make sense why this Punchline is Joker's girlfriend. Maybe the story later on will explain that. And so we find that Punchline's motivation is that she has this grudge against Harley because, Joker is changing the world, And what is it she says? Every day he's out there changing the world, making them see the clowns really are, showing them that they should laugh at death and tear down society. That sounds like poignant. Where does she explain it? It says, you could have been running this horror carnival at his side, but now you're going to get carved up by his replacement. Oh, that's it. Here it is. Her grudge is that Harley wanted to fix him and make him better because she was his psychiatrist, and now she's pissed off. How dare you try to cure him? But she stopped trying to cure him, so whatever. It's really loose and weak. This is obviously feels like a DC sort of directive to be like, here, make a replacement for Harley because we have gone away from Harley being the Joker sidekick. We're never going back. We're never putting the genie back in the bottle. We're forever making Harley stupid, and we're going to try to keep pushing this Deadpool analog. So, but we kind of like the idea of the old, we want our cake and eat it too, so let's make a second Harley, you know. We get a shocking moment here where Punchline, true to her skills, slices Harley's throat. And we get kind of this shocking moment. And this is a credit to the comic book. When you can shock me, when you can make me go, oh, stand up and take notice, what the hell's going on? That means the plot's engaged me, and Harley's sitting here gurgling on her own blood. It's pretty violent. And then they toss her in the sewer, and at this point I'm thinking Harley's dead. Okay, first of all, getting sliced from the throat, you can survive that if you get immediate medical attention. You get tossed in the sewer with your throat exposed, like you're getting staph. you're dead. You're dead. But you know, Harley can do things that no human can do as comic book. Of course, she's not. She's Harley Quinn. Of course, she's not dead. So we go back to the sword fight, and this is a case of modern comic writers. And I feel like it's not the writer's fault as much as just sort of the era that we're in. And modern writers don't think of comics the way we used to think of comics, and they used to be more art-driven, and then the writers would come in and fill in the blanks. They would, the comic would be drawn, and then the writer would come in and write the script. But nowadays, that's not the case. The artist actually draws based on the script. And a lot of writers aren't very visual, and they don't think of action scenes. I talk about this a lot. And so we just get a couple like clang, clang, some poses of, we know there's a sword fight going on because we see this panel. And then we see, this panel. But we don't get a feel of the fight. We don't get a sense of the action. And if you understand, and I talk about, if you understand action, and if you're a fan of action, which I hope you are if you're a comic fan, if you're a fan of action movies like John Wick, is a good example. The reason I think if you like John Wick, it's a fun story, but you get to see the action. There's actually a story within every action scene, and the visuals of it are spectacular. Anyways, moving on, we come to find out, spoiler alert, the designer is just a shambling shell of the greatest villain of an older generation, cut down by his replacement. This is an act of humiliation to mask what you're really after. Batman's figured it out, and it's the Joker the whole time. Surprise if you didn't see that coming a mile away. So then there's Joker, and he's like, oh, Batman, this is part of the plan. It wasn't about breaking you. It's about what comes next. I've got a whole war planned for you. This was about breaking her, while I get everything I need to break you. And then Batman's like, oh, Catwoman? And then Joker basically says, okay, God, I'm mixing up his name right now with Deathlock. Anyway, Slade Wilson, I finished your contract, and then here he goes. Deathstroke, that's his name, is going to pounce on Batman. Apparently, he likes to hold his sword upside down, but whatever. And he stabs Batman through the leg. Batman screams out, and I just have to use, like, here's a good panel as an example. The art in this book is standard fare. This is something I would expect to see in more of like a B-list or a C-list DC title. I'd expect to see Hawkman have this art. I'd expect to see like maybe Nightwing or something. This is Batman. This is your A-list. This is your premier book. This is the book that is your number one title. Throw your number one artist on here. I do not like this modern thing where it's like, oh, we got a good writer, so we don't have to put a good artist on. We got a shitty writer, we got to put a good artist on to like prop it up, right? I can't stand this. And part of it, I will admit my bias, is my frustration at seeing Brian Michael Bendis constantly get propped up with all the best talent. Tom King getting propped up with why is Clayman doing Batcat? No one cares about Batcat. But Clayman should be doing Batman, right? Batman. Tony S. Daniel, David Finch. I mean, how many names can you think of that you could put on this book? I could think of maybe 12 ahead of this guy, and it's just So Catwoman is like ready to get all the money, and she's like, "Great, it's done. Now move the money over," and boom, she's betrayed. Bang. Looks like she was shot by Punchline, who apparently knows where the Batcave is. This is like the most insecure place on the planet now. Is the Batcave. Like, just everyone can just go to the Batcave. Come on. This is out of control. You as an editor at DC, you need to make sure your writers aren't doing this, like painting themselves into a corner, or painting your comic into a corner. Because now future writers have to go by this. Everyone's going to end up knowing where the Batcave is. Which won't really matter, because I'm sure Bendis will come on the book eventually, and then he'll write a story where Batman pulls off the cowl and tells everyone who he really is, because that's what he did with Superman. So we notice this is the Joker's plan the whole time. Punchline uses Catwoman to get the codes or whatever, gets all the money, and so now at the end is, Joker, you're now worth over $100 billion, and he's like, ha 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 ha. And it's the end, and it's fine, right? It's a fine Joker story. It's a Batman story. It's nothing to write home about, but it's nothing to complain about either. I would say this is like a solid 3-star book. It's been fun every issue I've read, because I like Batman, and because this is one of the premier, like the flagship book for DC. I expect better, but I'm not unhappy either, right? If any disappointment you hear is just the fact that, why shouldn't this just be better, right? You've got this great talent pool at DC. You could do more. But like I said, I'm not unhappy. I am very apprehensive about where this starts. It's like, ooh, the Joker War is coming, and how many? It's like 27 issues. Like, oh Jesus, this was already 8 issues for this story. That is a systemic problem with mainstream comics. It's not Tynan's fault. But that's my view of Batman 93. I hope you enjoyed the review. Give me your thoughts if you disagree or you agree or whatever you just want to say. Apparently there was a Green Lantern 80th anniversary. To me, Green Lantern is Hal Jordan. I don't know why Green Lantern's 80th anniversary needs to include Simon and Jessica, or even Jon Stewart or Kyle, like, or Guy, whatever. I guess they're Green Lanterns too. There's so many Green Lanterns. All right, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.